Ancient stories are filled with gods and heroes who drink from magic springs or eat enchanted fruit. They seek eternal life, a prize beyond the reach of ordinary people. Think of the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of our oldest written tales. The hero Gilgamesh travels to the ends of the earth, facing monsters and gods, all to find a plant that grants immortality. He finds it only to have it stolen by a snake. This story, like so many others, tells us that immortality is a dream for the gods, not for us. It's a powerful narrative that has shaped how we view our own mortality for thousands of years. It's a story of limits, a fundamental boundary we cannot cross. For centuries, this was where the conversation ended. Immortality was a subject for poets and priests, a matter of faith or fantasy. Science had little to say on the matter, and one of the most basic rules for living things on Earth is that they are born, they live, and they die. But something has changed. The tools of science have grown incredibly powerful. We can now read the very code of life, the DNA inside our cells. We can see the tiny molecular machines that keep us running, and we can watch them as they break down over time. The conversation is shifting from the halls of mythology to the bright, sterile rooms of laboratories. Scientists are no longer just asking why we age. They are starting to ask with genuine seriousness if we can do something about it. The dream of Gilgamesh is being re-examined, not with magic, but with microscopes and data. This new quest is not for a mythical plant, but for a deep understanding of our own biology. It's a journey into the universe within our own bodies. We are beginning to see aging not as some mystical fate, but as a series of physical processes. And if it's a physical process, then it can be studied. It can be understood. And perhaps it can be influenced. We are standing at a moment where the oldest human dream is meeting the newest human technology. The implications are staggering, and they force us to ask some very big questions. Immortality. First, let's be clear about our terms. When scientists talk about this, they rarely use the word immortality. It suggests you could survive anything: a lightning strike, a car crash, or the eventual end of the planet. That's not what the science is about. No serious biologist is working on a way to make you indestructible. So, let's set that idea aside for now. It's a distraction from the real, and frankly, more interesting conversation. The term that scientists prefer is radical longevity or extending health span. The goal isn't to live forever in a decrepit state. The goal is to extend the healthy, vibrant, and productive part of life. Imagine being as healthy and active at 120 as you are at 40. The aim is to push back the diseases and decay of old age, the arthritis, the dementia, the frailty. It's about decoupling chronological age from biological age. Instead of just adding years to life, the focus is on adding life to years. This is a much more concrete and achievable goal, and it's where the cutting-edge research is happening right now. We will travel deep inside the human cell to understand what aging actually is. We will then survey the breakthroughs happening in labs around the world, from editing our genes with CRISPR to clearing out old, damaged cells like a cellular cleaning crew. This is about fundamental biology, and the progress is both real and accelerating. But we will also step back and ask what it all means. If we could dramatically extend our healthy lifespans, what kind of world would we create? Who gets access to these treatments? How would our societies, our families, and our sense of self change? So join me, and let's explore one of humanity's oldest questions through the lens of 21st century science. To understand aging, we have to think small, really small. Your body is made of trillions of tiny biological machines called cells. Each one is a bustling city. They build proteins, they transport nutrients, they send signals, they generate energy. For a long time, everything runs smoothly. But just like any complex machine, parts start to wear out. Think of your body like a classic car, but after decades of driving, little things start to go wrong. A gasket leaks, a wire frays, rust begins to form. This process of gradual wear and tear is happening inside you right now at the cellular level. Every day, your cells face an onslaught of damage. They are bombarded by radiation from the sun. They are exposed to toxins from the environment. Even the very act of living, turning food into energy, creates damaging byproducts called free radicals. These are like tiny, ricocheting bullets inside your cells. For most of your life, your cells have amazing repair systems that constantly fix this damage, keeping the machine running smoothly. But over time, the damage outpaces the repairs. This isn't a design flaw. It's a trade-off. Your body's resources are finite. It's built for survival and reproduction, not for lasting forever. Imagine a road crew that fixes potholes every night. For years, they keep the road smooth. But eventually, the cracks become too numerous. The crew can't keep up, and the road starts to crumble. In a similar way, the slow, steady accumulation of unrepaired damage is a fundamental driver of what we call aging. It's not a single event, but a cascade of countless tiny failures. This is a crucial point. Aging isn't one problem, so it won't have one simple solution. There is no one magic pill to take. Instead, scientists see it as a collection of interconnected processes. By understanding these, we can start to see where we might be able to intervene. Inside almost every one of your cells is your DNA, the master software that contains all the instructions for building and operating your entire body. This code is copied every single time a cell divides. No matter how careful you are going to make some mistakes. These mistakes are called mutations. Your cells have sophisticated proofreading and repair mechanisms, like a team of meticulous editors. But the repair machinery itself can become less efficient. More errors slip through the cracks. The master blueprint becomes corrupted. One of the most fascinating parts of this story happens at the very ends of your DNA strands, protected by special caps called telomeres. You can think of them like the plastic tips on your shoelaces. Those little tips stop the laces from fraying. Every time a cell divides, a tiny piece of the telomere is lost. This acts as a kind of cellular clock. After a certain number of divisions, the telomeres become too short, and the cell stops dividing altogether. In lab studies, scientists have observed that animals with artificially lengthened telomeres can sometimes live longer, healthier lives. If the nucleus is the cell's command center, then the mitochondria are its power plants. They are absolutely essential for life. But this energy production comes at a cost. Damaged mitochondria become less efficient, and they produce even more free radicals, which causes even more damage. As cells get older, they have two options: die or enter senescence. A senescent cell has stopped dividing but refuses to die. These zombie cells secrete a cocktail of inflammatory chemicals, damaging healthy cells and disrupting normal function. Think of it like having a few rotten apples in a barrel. If you don't remove them, they will start to make the other apples around them go bad. This discovery has led to the development of drugs called senolytics. Senolytics are a class of drugs designed to seek out and destroy these zombie cells. For the senescent cells, it's like pulling the plug on their life support, and are then cleared away by the immune system. In groundbreaking studies, giving senolytic drugs to old mice had remarkable effects. The mice became healthier, and they lived longer. There are now several senolytic drugs in human clinical trials. The goal is to see if they can clear out senescent cells in humans. Researchers have found specific genes that play a huge role in controlling lifespan, like finding the master control knobs for aging. This brings us to one of the most powerful tools ever invented in biology: CRISPR. It represents a fundamental shift from simply reading the book of life to having the power to write in its pages. For nearly a century, scientists have known of a surprisingly simple way to extend lifespan: caloric restriction. Researchers have been searching for a shortcut, compounds that can trick the body into thinking it's fasting. The two most famous examples are metformin and rapamycin. Large-scale human trials, like the TAME trial, are now underway to see if these drugs can slow aging in people. This is no longer just a scientific question. It becomes one of the most profound social and ethical questions. Who gets access? We risk creating the greatest divide in human history. a biological gap between the rich who can afford to stay young and everyone else. A world of Methuselahs would put an unprecedented strain on Earth's finite resources. The very structure of our society would break. The psychological burden of watching generations of your own family pass away could be immense. The path forward is not to fear the science, but to engage with it. We must become the architects of our own future. Perhaps the primary goal shouldn't be radical life extension, but health span extension, to compress the period of sickness and frailty at the end of life. This would be a monumental achievement. The quest to extend life is forcing us to define what makes a life worth living, and that may be its greatest gift.